Howdy, folks. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. This is Dr. Richard Owen. I am joined in the Hilltop Studios by
Amateur Fire
and
Uncle Bachi.
And we are
the
Doc Owen Show.
We are ready to go. Live wires. I got to give you a little heads up tonight. There will be no interview or conversation or, pre-recorded sort of stuff. Not that we don't have it and not that it's not interesting. We said last week we would have a lady on by the name of Dr. Daryl Kane talking about benefit corporations. And in all honesty, the reason that we're not doing it is because we just didn't give enough notice to Dr. Kane and DePaul University to get the link up on their Benefits Corporation Gateway site. And, we would like to do the most courteous thing and make sure that their students and followers have access to it when it's going on live as opposed to just as a podcast. So we'll do that one next week. This week there's plenty of what I would call active, live, available targets in terms of the news media and what's going on. So we will have a very lively discussion and hopefully help you connect the dots and suggest some action plans that you might want to put into place. We always remind you that we are on the social media, all over it as Doc Owen Show, DocWenshow. We are doing better at developing our blog, which is www.docowenshow.com, and that's the best place to go if you're not already on our newsletter list or our email list where you get direct updates to what's going on. The place to sign up is at docowenshow.com. That's probably the best place. Particularly our listeners on some of our internet networks where we're affiliated and they rebroadcast the show. The best place to find us is at docowenshow.com to sign up for the email list and take advantage of nothing. Right now we don't give anything away free, but at least you'd get the updates and know what's going on. So you can
stay in the know.
Stay in the know. Be a Doc Owen Show insider.
That's right.
Okay, as well as on the Twitter feed.
Mm-hmm.
We always start the show in a very traditional manner, and that is with Ms. Surefire delivering an inspirational note. Uncle Bachi gives us a moment in history, and I get to close it out with a leadership quote. So with that, Ms. Surefire, take it away.
Howdy, folks. Before I get into my normal inspirationaldaily.com quote, I want to let you know that Doc had shared with me a new site that has daily quotes as well from a good religious perspective called pocketfuel.com. That's PKTfuel.com. So I'm just starting my research because I want to get it right. These quotes, are more in depth, so I want to make sure I summarize it correctly for y'all. Anyway, get ready to hear more about that in the future. Tonight's quote is from inspirationalday.com by a lady from the name of Audrey Hepburn. She was a British actress and considered the third greatest female screen legend in the golden age of Hollywood.
We're going to have to break out the fans for Uncle Bachi when you say Audrey Hepburn.
Oh, Breakfast at Tiffany's, huh?
Yeah.
Brunettes, I get it. Okay, so her quote is, "The most important thing is to enjoy your life. To be happy. It's all that matters."
There you go.
Well done, Miss Hepburn. Uncle Bachi, you got a moment in history. What happened at some point this very day?
Yes, sir.
Back in the day.
I have two. Okay. Way back in 1790, let's see, that was during George Washington's first term, the Coast Guard was established.
The United States Coast Guard.
United States Coast Guard. At the time, it was known as the Revenue Cutter Service. Now, if you want to know what revenue cutter service means, Google.
Okay.
1977, Jimmy Carter. Remember him?
Yeah.
The peanut farmer. Well, in 1977, on this day, he signed a measure establishing the Department of Energy. Now, that's about, 40 years ago?
Yeah. and
Almost 40?
Yep. And their charter was
Well,
40 years ago.
this is, yeah, go ahead.
Their charter was to wean the United States off of foreign oil.
40 years, they've done a great job, haven't they? You know?
Wonders.
Typical government program.
Somebody
Yes.
go look that up.
That's why they were set up. I'm pretty confident of it.
Wow.
You're probably right. You usually are.
The leadership quote tonight is from a fellow by the name of Dr. David Schwartz, who is an author and a motivational speaker. He said, "When you believe, your mind will find a way to do."
I like it.
So, go forward. Just go forward with it.
Yeah.
Couple of there's one local announcement that to San Antonio that I like to make, but it also applies no matter where you're listening to us, because you may or probably have a local chapter or a local action committee or whatever that is affiliated with Act for America, ACT exclamation point, Act for America. Ours is called Act for San Antonio, but they are a wonderful resource for education on Islam. And one of the show's best friends, District Attorney Nicola Hood, is constantly pounding on us the difference between Islam and Muslim. That's why, he doesn't talk about Muslim. We don't talk about Muslim. You talk about Islam and the Islamic faith and where it goes awry and does not comport, meaning agree with, the U.S. Constitution. As a matter of fact, it's way out there in terms of outside of it.
Absolutely.
The point is, Act for America and Act for San Antonio is very good at training people to understand Islam. As an example, here's the myth that Muslim apologists sometimes claim that the root word of Islam is al-salam, which is peace in Arabic. However, the truth is that an Arabic word has only one root. The root word for Islam is al-silm, S-I-L-M, which means submission or surrender. There is no disagreement about this among Arabic or Islamic scholars. Okay?
Amazing.
So it has nothing to do with peace. The root word means submission or surrender. Point is, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn has written a book, and he's the former director of Defense Intelligence Agency, etc. He knows his stuff. He will be in San Antonio Tuesday, August the 9th. That would be next Tuesday, 7 p.m. at Village Parkway Baptist Church. You have to go to Act for San Antonio. Google it, find it on the website. You have to pre-register. They've already got over 200 people registered for this event. It should be very, very informative. So I always like to give a shout out for that. Uncle Bocce, are you queued up with a history lesson for the audience?
I am.
Cool. Where are we going to go?
Tonight we're going to start on a journey talking about slavery.
Okay.
And we're going to go through the history of slavery.
Okay.
And
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes. Okay. Exactly, because what I tend to accomplish here is acknowledge the depravity of slavery, the immorality of it, the inhumanity of it.
Sure.
It was horrible. It was
Sure.
terrible for any people.
No doubt about it.
But then on the other side, we also want to celebrate what those people who were slaves have brought to this country.
Yeah.
Okay,
I would agree.
I want to try to keep it balanced. So keep me on balance if I get off.
I would agree.
Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the African Americans in the British New World. Now there are a lot of misconceptions out there about the time period, this time period of in American history, and most of it surrounds the institution of slavery. Now in the British colonies, actually, we saw that slaves were brought here even before the Mayflower ship landed in 1620 at Plymouth Rock. There were already African Americans living here, some slaves and some not. Now, it's easy for us...
How is that?
How is that?
Yeah. I mean...
Primarily because... Well, okay, let me backtrack here. Primarily because the institution of slavery goes back a long, long, long time.
Okay.
It even goes back to today's Mesopotamia, the Sumerians, the first recorded civilization.
Okay.
They had slaves. They may not have been African slaves, but they had slaves.
Okay.
And so it continues. And the... what was your question again?
Well, you mentioned the fact that when the
Oh, yes.
the bulk of the folks came over to settle America, that there were already slaves here, that slavery was already in what eventually became the United States. And that
Right.
we have this impression
Yes.
that's not true, that the white guys from England came over here and there were no slaves until these old white guys brought them. And you're telling me that that's not true.
That's one of the misconceptions
Okay.
of slavery in this country.
Okay.
And usually we think of slavery as it was just prior to the Civil War.
Yes.
And that's unfair because slavery started a long time before that.
That was the point
Okay.
I was trying to
Yeah,
emphasize.
exactly. And it's most people look back at pre-Civil War, and things were pretty bad back then. But
Yeah.
and it's important to understand.
Well,
Okay.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, that's okay.
It doesn't
This
count
is
on your
discussion.
clock. Things were pretty. You made mention that things were pretty bad. It was, but they were only bad because we were trying to create an environment where everybody was equal. The country, there were an awful lot of our fellow patriots at the time trying to create a country of equality, men, women, color. I mean, that's really what they wanted to do. So that's why it became interpreted as pretty bad, was the fact that we were trying to somewhat clean it up and do away with this long-standing institution of slavery. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly, and just keep this in mind for later. The wisdom of the founders, even though some of them were slaveholders,
Yes.
the wisdom of them not putting slavery as an institution
Right.
in the Constitution
Right.
left the door open for us to get rid of it.
They
okay.
knew exactly
so,
what they were
so
doing. Okay, go.
Just keep those in mind.
Yes, sir.
Now, slavery as a historical institution, it changed over time, and it was different from place to place. Even in Africa, the mighty kingdoms that there were, mostly in the Western Africa area, those kingdoms had slaves. And the way that they got their slaves, there's a number of different ways. One was by war. When you conquered a people, they became your slaves.
Right.
That was the primary way that happened.
Okay.
Okay. One of the most common misconceptions is that slavery was a uniquely or distinctly Southern institution prior to the American Revolution. That is not true.
Right.
Okay, that's why looking prior to the Civil War, it gives you a distorted picture.
Right.
Okay? Slavery in America actually began when the first African slaves were brought to the North American colony of Jamestown. Remember, we talked about Jamestown.
Sure.
And remember how because of the crops, they needed abundant labor.
Right.
And slavery was already established in the Bahamas and in the Caribbean. Remember, they brought those black slaves over into Jamestown, Virginia, for the crops.
Right.
And the thing is, it was those black slaves that taught those white masters how to plant and how to do the kinds of things that they needed to do. Okay? So let's not... so the first actual slave was brought here in 1619 to Jamestown. That's why I say it predates the Mayflower, because they were already here. Okay. Now, even before the Mayflower touched ground on Cape Cod, African Americans, they were already here. They were in British North America. Although slavery was not, how should I say this, not itself, it was not foreign to West Africa, let me put it that way, and the kingdoms there. The Africans there took slaves, like I said before. Usually it was the result of a war.
But the Africans there made money off of selling people into slavery.
Yes, they did. They not only...
I mean, the
yeah,
elite or the most powerful, right, or whatever you want to call it, they're the one, I mean...
Exactly.
We didn't
made money.
We just went down there and picked them up. Mm-hmm. We right? I mean, we
basically
paid for them.
Basically, that's right. It was really mostly the Africans themselves,
yeah,
the Portuguese,
yeah,
the Spanish, and the Dutch.
Okay,
were the biggest perpetrators or
okay,
providers of slaves.
Okay,
and the transatlantic. They call it the Middle Passage. The slave trade was incredible. If you can picture the Atlantic Ocean, and one side you have Africa, then north of that you have Europe, and then you have the Americas. It was like a triangle, and they called that the Middle Passage. And those ships that they brought over from Africa via Europe and over here, and even to Brazil.
Okay.
Okay. Those ships were packed, jammed with black Africans who were taken away from their families, taken
right,
away from their tribes.
Right.
Okay? In fact, it was considered, there was one ship.
Yeah, they weren't cruise ships.
No, they weren't. There was one ship that had, and they considered this good, that of the 600 blacks that they had in the holds, with space enough for their elbows, that's about it. Mm-hmm. They couldn't even lie down. 90 people died out of 600, 90 of them. And they said that was a good day.
That was a good trip.
That was a good trip. That's, 16% of their trade?
Yeah.
So, now, for the most part, the masters considered them savages and all of that kind of thing. So to say that the African slave traders, they would ruthlessly bring their captives from the interior of the continent of Africa, where they would capture these people, and they were in the slave trade themselves. So it's not only just the white Europeans; it was the blacks who lived in Africa as well. And like I said, slave ships were packed full because the more they can get, the more money they would make.
Sure.
So money was the big thing.
Sure.
These people overcame tremendous odds to reach their destination. Can you imagine having enough room just to put your head on your knees?
Yeah.
And that's all you can move. I mean, whether you sleep, eat, or what. That's harsh.
Right. Okay,
that's really harsh.
So in keeping it balanced about
Mm-hmm.
the good stuff that the slaves brought, we're down to less than a minute. Have you got one highlight that'll drive us into next week? Okay.
Yeah. Let me let's see, how should I put this? This is what you have to understand is that some blacks were not slaves.
Okay, right.
They were people who lived in the towns.
Right.
Okay? Some of them were domestic slaves. Some of them were given their freedom.
Right.
So they did live as non-slaves.
Right.
The often overlooked free African Americans, should I say, they managed to escape, or they were lucky enough to be granted their freedom. Now, as slaves, these people learned, not only did they teach, but they learned skills.
I was going to say they were.
They taught us how to plant. They taught us how to
Right.
manage our crops.
Right.
But they were also learning skills
Right.
at the time.
Okay.
So that's a good stopping point, and we'll
Okay.
continue.
We'll
and
pick-
in the next couple of weeks, we'll be looking a little bit more at the West African Society
Okay.
at the point of European contact, and we'll be looking at the growth of slavery, and we'll continue on with it as much as we possibly can.
Okay, and all of this prior to America becoming the United States of America.
Yes.
Okay, there
yes.
you go.
Yes, it was.
Contact
And,
information.
well, Uncle Bachi, UNCLEBACI at DocOwenShow.com.
For an email address, and you can, besides following at Doc Owen Show on Twitter, pretty soon you're going to be able to follow at Uncle Bachi on Twitter, and perhaps at I'm a Surefire on Twitter.
Yeah.
So we'll have the
Yay.
whole team out there sparking things off.
Yeah.
Okay, we are going to take a very brief 30-second commercial intermission, and we will be right back.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas.
Call 1-800-352-3127. Again, 1-800-352-3127. A fee-based company.
30 seconds.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. We are glad to have you. Uncle Bachi, thank you, sir. We appreciate the history lesson. For those of you that missed it, go grab the podcast and listen to the first 15 minutes of the show. Bring yourself up to date. We do not have a conversation, an interview, or any outside interference or resources this evening. We are going to have a discussion about all of the live targets that are out there. First of which, it seems I have an article here that says Black Lives Matter issues a shocking statement about the Clintons. And Alicia Garza, who is one of the founders of Black Lives Matter, she's one of the leaders of the movement. She recently said in an interview that the Clintons routinely used the black community for their own benefit. The Clintons use black people for votes, but then they don't do anything for black communities after they're elected. They use us for photo ops only.
Absolutely.
That's kind of a
That is
strong indictment coming from Black Lives Matter.
That reminds me of that movie we saw, how they were really upset at the Clintons about the Clinton Foundation claiming about the money to Tahiti.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I forgot to make that announcement. There's 2 movies that you need to go see. One of them is on the internet. You can Google it and bring it up. It's about a 1-hour documentary. The name of it is Clinton Cash. If you'll just Google Clinton Cash, you'll find it all over the internet. It's free, so all it costs you is now about an hour of your time to watch it on your computer screen or your mobile device or wherever you happen to be. The other one you're going to have to go to the theater for, but it's a great movie. It's Dinesh D'Souza's latest movie called Hillary's America. And it goes into a bit of the history of the Democrat Party and, you know, where things have come from and what Hillary's America as an extension of what we've gone through the last 7.5 years would look like. So make a note of those 2 movies. Clinton Cash, that's the free one, and Hillary's America, that's Dinesh D'Souza. Okay? Thanks
Good.
for reminding me. Good job.
You're welcome.
30 seconds. 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 30 se
recently in Texas, and we're trying to get a hold of the young lady that this happened to see if we can have her on the show, but we've not been able to make contact. University of Houston suspended one of the members of their student government association. That, let's be very clear, the university did not suspend her. All right, the university itself has taken no action whatsoever. But the Student Government Association, of which she was a member and a leader in the SGA, they got their governing body together, whatever it is, a bunch of other students, and decided to suspend this lady from government activity and forced her to take a certain number of hours of
Diversity training?
Diversity training. How did you know what I was looking for?
Because you told me before.
And you remembered and I didn't. And all because, I mean, can you imagine what she did to have to do that? She posted on her Facebook page that all lives matter. And the student government, the student body, slammed her down for that completely racist statement.
Racist. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine what kind of a government those young people would run? If they're, I mean, it tells you what's going on some of our college campuses, and it tells you why the Doc Owen Show has the target audience that we do.
It's frightening, yes.
So
That's a good thing you just said, because like me, I'm a later in life student.
yes.
And I'm glad I've already formed my opinions, because yes, they do tend to
Oh yeah, they do.
go liberal.
Oh yeah, they do. Well, I'm a
Yeah.
professor, and they work on us too. Trust me.
Yeah.
I subscribe to a thing that most of y'all, if you do not, should at least poke your nose into every once in a while. It's called the Media Research Center, MRC, Michael Richard Charlie.org. And it does exactly that. It is a watchdog over the mainstream media. So it monitors and tracks and builds statistics and keeps numbers on things having to do with the mainstream media, and which I like. I enjoy hearing what they have to say, because it's facts that that are, to me, are intuitively obvious, and the main reason I haven't watched television to any extent whatsoever since the late 90s. Just unplug, just give it up, and it's only gotten worse since I unplugged. Here are some of the headlines you need to know about the slant, the angle, the disparity in airtime that's being given to the two particular camps in the presidential election, or over certain events that happen as a result of the presidential election. For instance, CNN's New Day, which evidently is the name of a show, they aired nearly 200 times more coverage on Trump controversies than they did Iran. And if you're not familiar with what went on in Iran, let me see how to put this, as Bachi would say. The President of the United States has committed treason and admitted as much. He has given material aid to a terrorist nation. He gave them $400 million, 400 million United States tax dollars to Iran, which is a bona fide, by his own admission, terrorist operation, terrorist supporting operation. And at the same time, I believe it was a Washington, D.C. policeman who wired $25 in support of an ISIS operation and got thrown in jail.
That's right. It was a transit policeman,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact.
Yeah, a transit policeman.
Yes.
Not even a, not,
Yeah.
I don't mean to talk down about transit policemen, but he was a transit policeman.
Yes.
So, what's your lesson there, young folks? Go big or go home.
Well, you know what's yeah, exactly. But what's really curious about that, to get around the law, which is what this administration always does, to get around the law, it is illegal for us to give U.S. dollars
Right.
to terrorist countries.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did is they converted U.S. dollars that they printed
Yeah.
over to, the over to the Dutch guilder or whatever.
No, a combination
Of
various European
Yeah, a combination.
denominations. They gave them Swiss francs. I know that. They gave them the Belgian
There you
money,
go.
whichever it was. And yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's how sinister it is to get around the law, but still it broke the law, no matter what.
It's like who did the transaction too,
Yeah.
because in
Yeah.
the banking world, they look at the
Yep.
individual who committed that transaction.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
And-
true.
Well, it's
true.
kind of like the email server. They didn't intend to break the law.
Nope.
Number 3 on this MRC list, networks gave Trump controversies over 2 times the coverage of the Iran payment just on Wednesday evening, which is when that story broke. Okay, 2 times.
Two times.
They gave up twice the amount of airtime to bashing Trump than they did this illegal activity costing us $400 million. Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was going to say here, caution. Remember, progressives. I don't care whether they have an R, a D, or an L beside their name.
Right.
Progressives think that it's okay to lie. It's okay to cheat. Okay, so they have done this, and they're trying to make excuses for it. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But if you know your opponents and you know the way that they think, this is all part of their goal to put down America. The lawlessness, and it's part of their overall scheme that they're trying to discount America.
Well, absolutely. One of the things that I saw, if any of you have listened to the show when the whole fluff came up about Target and boycotting
Yes.
Target because of the transgender bathroom deal, and your friend Doc Owen was adamant about not just boycotting Target but putting them out of business. Just, you must
Right.
come on with the fullest of force. That's exactly what the Democrats are doing right now. They're not trying to keep Trump from being president. They are trying to break his movement. I've got an art. That's what, that's their focus. Their focus, they go big. That's what I'm saying. Go big or go home. If you're going to get caught giving Iran some money, you might as well give them a bunch of money, because then the public will go, whoa, no way. No way. They wouldn't dare do that. I'm just saying. So, yes, you're absolutely right. That's why they're all over. Let's talk about that for a minute. We got a minute or two for our next commercial break.
Yes.
Okay. This Trump versus Hillary is, I can't understand. I do understand how there are probably 65 to 70%, somewhere in there, of Democrats who know that she cannot be trusted. Polls have shown that she is not to be trusted, right?
Right.
And yet they support her. Mm-hmm. And that's hard for conservatives to understand. That's just
we
not
don't think
something
like
we
that.
can grasp.
Yeah.
I was 32 years old. I was about to graduate from Texas A&M, and I wanted to get back on track with my original career when I went to the Naval Academy. I was earning a degree in political science, and I wanted to go into politics. So I went and talked to the man, the local young guy, who happened to be about my age. He was 4th generation owner of the largest bank in the territory. all right? And his daddy and his granddaddy, they're the ones who built the political dynasties for that region. You following me? Mm-hmm. They financed it. If you were their guy, that's all there was to it, all right? And he and I were pretty good friends. And he said, sure, you know, he backed me. You know, I'm in. The senator from Texas, his nickname was the Bull of the Brazos. He was going to retire in the next 4 to 6 years, so I would run for, they had it all mapped out, I would run for county commissioner, spend some time there, get to know everybody, and then I would run for the Texas State Senate on these guys' ticket, and I would probably get elected. My response to him was, well, that guy that you want me to step in for he's a crook. I mean, you know, everybody knows it. I don't want to have anything to do with that. And the exact response was, yeah, but he's our crook. He brings good stuff back to his district. And I'm telling you, that's what I was also told that back in the 60s, back early on when I thought about politics. That still go. So, yeah, Hillary's a crook, but she's their crook. So they have the opinion that Donald Trump is a crook as well. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand.
They're all crooks. Yeah. You know, there's something wrong with all of them, or they wouldn't be in that game.
That's right.
All right? Purity doesn't do well in politics.
It's kind of like we see those liberals that want to go with Hillary and all, and we're thinking, how can we do that? How can they do that?
Yeah.
But then they don't want Trump like we don't want Hillary, you know?
Well, but I think it's more than that. Now, add into that, why is the corporate establishment, Meg Whitman, the lady that's the CEO of Hewlett-Packard, that came out recently that's in the news, various Republican officials, Republican House of Representative members, various members of the party, Reince Priebus, the head of the party, they're all questioning Trump. You know, they're all really... Some of them are coming out and just flat out not supporting him, like John Kasich did.
They're scared of him.
Say it again, louder.
They are scared of Donald Trump.
Dead burn
and
right there.
You know why.
Him are outside. Okay? Mm-hmm. We're going to take a little break, and then we're going to dive into what our current illustrious president said about Trump, and we'll see where that takes us. We will be right back.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 877-212-5898. Again, 877-212-5898. That's 877-212-5898. 877-212-5898.
Howdy, folks. This is Doc Owen. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. We are having a lively discussion about presidential politics and the way of the world. So if you're just joining us, please go back and grab the first part of the conversation, the first 35 or 40 minutes of the show out of the podcast. But stay with us right now. We will absolutely finish strong. Let me read you something that says, Trump finally says it. Before I do, and this has to do with a controversy between the Donald and President Obama. All right? Today or yesterday, former President George W. Bush came out He did not use Donald Trump's name, but that's all he didn't do. He bashed what he's been saying. He bashed about the immigration issue and the ban on bringing people in and all sorts of things that Trump has been making headway with. George W. Bush came out and said that it wasn't a good idea, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Folks, this is a former president that has sat on the sidelines for the last 7.5 years.
To his credit.
I thought to his credit.
Well, yeah.
Today's event, or yesterday, whenever this interview occurred,
Wiped it out.
Wiped it out.
Yeah.
I've heard that he's a globalist. He's an Agenda 21. He just, that he's one of them. And all of that really started with Herbert Walker Bush's father.
You got that right.
Grandpa Bush started it back in the Senate. That's where it all started back then. And the Bush dynasty has been running it along. And Jeb Bush was supposed to carry it forward in the name of the Republicans against Hillary Clinton in the name of the Democrats. Clinton Bush, sound familiar? But no, so they wanted those two candidates, no matter who won, their globalist agenda would move forward and American freedoms would continue to diminish, right?
That's right.
So when he hit the stage today, I'm like, oh, man. So what all of the pushback that Trump is getting is nothing but tipping the other side's hand. And it's telling you, and please, 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 young people, listen to me. Please listen to me. You hear a lot of hyperbole, a lot of exaggeration about, this election could be the death of the country. It's not going to happen, and it could be. It's not going to happen the day after the election, but this is a seriously critical turning point. That if we don't stop this crap now, we won't be able to stop it. And which means that Donald Trump, like him or not, he's a sarcastic, smart-ass New York punk. I agree. Never have liked him. Texans don't like him. But he has the support of a huge number of the American people. Why does he have that? Because when he was in construction, he didn't spend his time up in the office. He went down on the job and got to know bricklayers and then the trades people that built his buildings. If you heard his daughter speak at the RNC, that's what she said, and that was a critical piece that a lot of people don't think about. He's in touch with blue collar. His intuition is blue collar intuition, not worth $8 billion a year intuition that all of these politicians have been coming to for money for the last 20 years. He knows better. His instinct, which we see playing out, is his instinct and his intuition to be a blue-collar American. He doesn't like these people any more than we do. And they sure don't like him. And the stronger they push back on him for the next 90 days, the more we know he's right. Whether he said it correctly or not is a different story. You follow me?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm that's out there to
That's
the audience.
Rhetorical. Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
It's a rhetorical. That's all right. I mean, I appreciate it anyway. It's always nice to have the feedback. Here's one that says, Trump finally says it. And what I'm telling you is we have to elect Donald Trump, like him or not, in a landslide election. 85%.
Absolutely.
Just like they're trying to do away with him and his movement. You got to push back twice as hard.
Yes, you do.
And if you wind up trying to talk, as I said last night at a meeting, if you wind up trying to talk some of your friends out of voting for Hillary and they're not just listening, they're in complete denial, just be very nice to them and politely say, you're an idiot, and walk off and talk to somebody else. Because you're not going to convert them. Well, don't waste your time. Trump finally says it. It has been suggested by some that Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump is living rent-free inside the heads of both President Barack Obama and Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton. They declaring him to be, and now the president has declared him to be unfit to hold the presidency. All right? Trump, needless to say, fired back. He doesn't take stuff like that, So he went on to say that Obama was the worst president ever in America's long and storied history. He published the following statement on Facebook. Obama Clinton have single-handedly destabilized the Middle East, handed Iraq, Libya, and Syria to ISIS, and allowed our personnel to be slaughtered at Benghazi. Then they put Iran on the path to nuclear weapons. Then they allowed dozens of veterans to be waiting for medical care that never came. Hillary Clinton put the whole country at risk with her illegal email server, deleted evidence of her crime, and lied repeatedly about her conduct while endangered us all. He continued, they released criminal aliens into our country who killed one innocent American after another and have repeatedly admitted migrants later implicated in terrorism. They have produced the worst recovery since the Great Depression, shipped millions of our best jobs overseas to appease their global special interest, and they have betrayed our security, our workers, and Hillary Clinton has proven herself unfit to serve in any government office. He closed by saying that Obama and Clinton are the ones truly unfit to hold any office, much less the presidency.
Amen.
Give the guy time to write something, he comes on pretty strong when he doesn't have to do it in little blips. Here was the one that sort of really got me going, where there were two different writers. One of them, a fellow by the name of Dustin Keilhofer, wrote on a blog that I participate in called iPatriot.com about the man who violates on a daily basis, talking about Obama, says Donald Trump is not fit to be president and that he will not tolerate a Trump presidency. So he goes on, what exactly does that mean? Mm-hmm. He will not tolerate it. Another writer, a fellow by the name of Joseph Farah, F-A-R-A-H, who's a big dog. Mr. Farah is the head of WND.com, which is World News Daily. They've been around a long time. He also caught that in President Obama's message about him being unfit, Trump being unfit. So it's important to listen to the words that he uttered and measure their implications carefully. He said Trump would not abide by norms and rules and common sense. He questioned whether he would observe basic decency should he reach the Oval Office. He said he would have been talking about Obama here. He would have been disappointed to lose the elections of 2008 and 2012, but never doubted whether his rivals in those elections, John McCain and Mitt Romney, could function as president or had the knowledge to make government work. That's not the situation here, he added. He added Trump doesn't have the judgment, the temperament, the understanding to occupy the most powerful position in the world. He said he was woefully unprepared to do this job. Obama said Trump lacked knowledge about Europe, the Middle East, and other parts of Asia. The key here is, and this is the question, this harsh, unprecedented attack by a sitting president, okay, of a major party nominee to succeed him, raises an obvious question. What happens if Donald Trump wins the election in November? Mm-hmm. Will this president, who has said he will not tolerate a Trump presidency, will this president follow 200 years of United States law and peacefully hand over the reins? Mm-hmm. And Mr. Farah is right. He said that's the question that needs to be asked, and it needs to be asked now so we know what to expect, because that, to me, and to a lot of other people, is very much a very thinly veiled threat, which he's real good at doing.
Yes, he is.
Will America follow the rule of law and the will of the people after the November election, no matter what Obama might think about his successor? To me, it's a key issue, which is why I would submit to you, unless you're happy with the past 7.5 years, if you're happy with the things are going, then do me a favor. You're taking up space on my radio channel. Get the hell off. Because if you're not going to listen, if you're not going to believe the truth when it's delivered to you, then I don't intend to waste my time. I'm investing our time, my time, Ima's, Uncle Bocce's, and actually some other people that help us do this. We're investing our time to deliver truthful information to you and expect you to act accordingly. Nobody's perfect. Donald Trump is far from perfect. Never, ever trust. The boy grew up in Queens. Give him a break. All right? But he's I truly believe in his own inimitable fashion, he's trying to do the right thing. He doesn't need the job. He doesn't need the notoriety. There's nothing about it that he needs, and all he's doing is getting grief for trying to do the right thing, which happens a lot in this world.
Yes, I know the feeling.
And it has for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the way of the buffalo,
mm-hmm.
or whatever the phrase is.
Yeah.
So, chime in, Bocce.
Yeah, no, I'm just here thinking about our audience. And
all right.
I know that most of you...
What am I missing?
No, you're not missing anything.
Okay.
I just want to emphasize what you're doing. I know many of you are young, and a lot of you may have the attitude that government doesn't apply to you. Please, as Doc Owen pleaded with you before, please study your history. Understand what is at stake. Do not let this country fall into the hands of those who would harm us. And believe it or not, they already have harmed you by putting you through government schools that have filled your heads with lies. So please.
And luckily, Bocce and I got out of that system before it was thoroughly tainted.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's right.
I'm not so sure about Ms. Surefire. I think you kind of were on the cusp there. You got some of it, but
you went to private school half the time, and then I was too stubborn to continue on private school.
There you go.
Yeah.
We did find out something about Donald Trump that I thought was interesting, besides the fact he grew up in Queens, because I wanted to know exactly where it was, which is one of the larger boroughs, I think, in New York, right on the other side from Manhattan, which is what everybody thinks of when they think of New York City. Mm-hmm. At 13, he went to military school. And for those of you who are young men or boys in the audience, you know that when 9 times out of 10, when you go to military school at 13, it's because you're a problem. And so you're sent to military school to sort of square you away before it's time to go to college, straighten you out. And even if we didn't go there, most of us were threatened with it when we were going through that 13 to 14-year-old time. Oh, what? So he's not. I mean, I'll go back to it. He's not perfect, but he's by far the best that we've got. And you can't vote for any one of the other two because you might as well be voting for Hillary. You know, if you want more lies and more international condemnation of our country, not to mention a much higher probability of. Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.